Is there like any flam between the back and I guess like the middle area where it first hits and then the back, or is it kind of just like
The
one big?
contact happens palm to fingers. So if I'm here,
What's up, you guys? Welcome back to another episode of the Flip Up Podcast. Today, we're joined with another guest. As always, we're joined with Nate Wollerman, who marched some lines you may know, such as Spirit of Atlanta.
Yeah, and again, thank you guys for helping us hit 100 followers on Instagram. If you're not following, make sure to follow us there. Also on YouTube, so subscribe. And again, we made a post, but just want to reiterate, let us know who you want next. We got some people planned, a couple videos pre-recorded, but let us know who you want next so that we can start getting that ready and recording. So without further ado, Nathan Wallerman.
hey, how's it going? Thanks for having me on here, guys. It's awesome. Nice to meet talk to you. Like I said, I'm Nate Wollerman. I marched 2012 through 2015 Pioneer Drum Corps on cymbals. I did March 2014 Green Thunder Percussion and Cavalry Indoor in 2015. And 2016, I started marching Spirit, and I did that through the 17 and 18 season. And in 2016, I marched Tate's Creek for indoor. And then just this past indoor season, I was teaching at Resistance Indoor in Oklahoma. So that is what I've been up to lately. Well, not what I've been up to lately, but my experience there.
Oh yeah, lots of groups. Been all over the place.
Yeah,
Yeah, moved around a little bit, doing school. Just took me wherever.
definitely. So, something we've asked basically everyone who's been on the podcast is sort of what got you. Well, in this case, it would be Pio. So, what got you into doing DCI?
So I was actually tricked into marching. I had never heard of drum corps before. What happened was I go to a really small high school in Northwest Chicago suburbs, really small town, like graduated with less than 200 kids. So our drum line was so small there was like two of us on cymbals. It was me and the senior who had just come back from marching a season of cymbals at Pio. And he was pretty hardcore about it. So and initially he did not like me because I was just screwing. I didn't want to play cymbals. I wanted to play drums, but they stuck me on cymbals because I sucked at playing drums. And eventually, like I saw him doing stuff, so I started kind of like mimicking, making fun of him. And then he saw me like flipping up. He's like, "Oh, I'm gonna see if I can teach this kid some other stuff." And then next thing you know, he was like, "Hey Nate, do you want to come do Io with me?" I'm like, "Yeah, sure. What is it?" He's like, "Oh, we'll go up to Wisconsin and Milwaukee and we'll just go do band all summer." I'm like, "Okay, cool." So I went to the first camp. We we busted hump, his typical drum corps camp. I had no idea what a drum corps camp was like, so I was just doing all I was told. Came back second one, got a contract, and then I went to move in, and I had no clue what I was getting myself into. I asked my buddy if I would be able to bring my fishing pole to go fishing over the summer. That's how little I knew was going on.
Yeah, I mean that's how everyone starts off. What you were saying before is like they want to go do snare, something like that. Like for me, drumline, right? My indoor. I was a trumpet player. I wanted to do what did I want to do? I think I wanted to do like quads or snare, even though I knew nothing. But like it was like one of those things where it's like you get put on cymbals, and then hell, look at where we're all at now. I mean,
Yeah. Yeah,
paid
once I
off.
started like learn how I did my first bucket dip, like it was like spring of that year, so it was like 2012. I was like, it's cool. I'm
Yeah.
pretty dope at this.
So Pio, right?
hmm
So we're talking about Pio, but the thing that a lot of people know you for is your experience at Spirit. So how did you go from Pio to Spirit?
well, I was after the 2015 season, I pretty much decided I was not going back to Pio. I had tried to leave a few times before that, like I in 2014 went to Colts, was one of the last ones cut there, auditioned for Scouts in 15. Um, made it pretty far there, but it just didn't work out. And I'm glad I went back to Pi that year. I loved marching with the people I marched with again. To me, it didn't really matter where, it's who you're with. Um, and but my two best friends that I was marching with, they aged out, so I had really kind of no reason to go back. I was gonna go to Crossman. I was getting ready to get registered for camps and everything, but then I got a call from my buddy saying that, hey, um, we're revamping the line at Spirit. So I was like, okay, cool. And pretty much sum it up, Nate, you come here, we're gonna have you be section leader, help run this line. I'm like, all right, cool, sounds good. We'll make a
Dang.
dope line. So that's
So
how
right
that
off the
went.
bat, you were section leader.
Yeah, yeah. And it was convenient that I was in Kentucky for school, so it was a little shorter of a drive. 'Cause I always
Mhm.
kind of kept going back to Pio because it's a 45-minute drive from my house. So
So while you were there, I mean, I guess you kind of got like thrown in there because you got that call, but did you feel any pressure as like first time section leader?
I was 4 years into drum corps already. It was just plug and chug, just do what I do best.
Wait, so how old were you when you started DCI?
15.
Jesus
Oh,
Christ.
And I had a summer birthday, so I turned 16 on tour. So I got all those 7 seasons. So I was, yeah.
super vet. That's
Yeah.
insane.
I only know of like two people who have marched, three people maybe, who have marched in high school. There's only one other person I could think in my head that's done it like roughly like the same experience as you. But other than that, I can only
Not
name
many
one
cymbal
other.
players.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Not many cymbal players last long. I don't know what it is, but I guess they just stick to indoor instead.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Maybe we're just like naturally poorer. We couldn't afford all the drum lessons, so we stuck to cymbals.
Yeah.
yeah, maybe. Also, just all the injuries and
Oh,
guess you
I
get
actually never
tired.
got injured. Actually, that's a
Really?
lie. I never sat out. I did get injured. I tore a ligament in indoor during the indoor season of 15 in my thumb.
Oh
Um,
God,
but I just wouldn't use that hand during rehearsal for a while, and then had a brace and with ice. But other than that, never 7 seasons, never sat out. Nothing serious ever happened. Don't know why.
badass.
Might be just luck, or maybe it was just something I did different.
Yeah. Um, cool. So transitioning the conversation here, this is something that me and Lucas want to know a lot about is what has been your experience at Spirit?
My experience at Spirit.
Or for everyone here, like who, Spirit is short for Spirit of Atlanta, the drum corps. So I just had to say that in case someone thought something different. Because there's also like WJ, there's like Spirit of America or something like that.
Yeah,
Yeah, some open
yeah.
class.
Yeah. So not to confuse it with that, we're talking about DCI Spirit of Atlanta.
No, yeah. What I can say with Spirit is every year I got there, every year I was there, it got better tremendously. When I first got there, it was an all new drum corps pretty much because previously they were about to fold. There was money stuff going on, and they just gutted the whole drum corps, started from scratch. The only thing that was the same was maybe a few random techs and some vets. Um, so every year they brought in new people, making it better. And to me, 16 was still better than any season I had before. Anyway, because it's not to say I had bad times at Pio, but the things we had to do made the season a little bit more difficult because of our status and being at Spirit. It just got a little easier.
Mm, yeah. Um, yeah, I mean I've heard stories like what was like your experience at Pio, I guess. Talking about that
Everyone
now.
calls them horror stories, but I thought it was a good time.
Yeah.
um, like I mean, it's the same BS everyone experiences. It just happened a lot more, and I think it's just something you learn to deal with. You had to be adaptive. Pilot kids are pretty adaptive. But I guess that goes any lower core. We struggle with things that upper cores don't. And I always kind of envy kids that go up into like those top cores right away. They're like, oh, it's such a hard season, but I had a great time. I'm like, yeah, it was hard, but how many times do you have to sleep on the side of the road hard?
Oh my god.
Jeez.
Yeah.
I
Only a
mean,
few though. That's the lucky part.
that's crazy. I've heard stories of like the bus air conditioning's not working.
Mm-mm.
No, they never worked.
Oh my
Yeah,
god.
like
What we would do, we would stick Gatorade bottles in between the windows and bungee cord them down so they wouldn't fly around. And then we'd open the hatch and stick a bungee cord, a box up in the hatch to act like a wind tunnel.
what?
Yo.
It
What?
was so MacGyver. Like
Io's building like some
and then
geniuses
we would
over
like
there.
hang hammocks up in the aisle.
What?
Man,
Well,
this is
they
the
were old
stuff.
school buses. So and they were our
Oh yeah,
buses,
I've
so we
seen
could
those
do what we
buses.
wanted. Like one year my buddy crashed his rookie year, he didn't want a seat partner, so he broke the back of his seat. So Roman to like get back at him just took the seat out. But instead he just sat in bean bags all summer.
You said to
Oh,
get back at a member. This is
He
the
took
directive.
his
To
seat
get
out
back
of
at a
the
member. He took this.
Jesus, man.
I kind of wish I was there to experience
No,
that.
Roman, everyone has these like always says this stuff about Roman, but I'm like, no, you guys, if you just watch him for a day, like you could write a sitcom off him. It
I bet.
you can't
Yeah.
make this stuff up.
Jesus.
You know that Clash of the Core show? They should have shown Pio. Because if they put you guys over there with that wind tunnel on TV, it would have blown people's minds. Instead,
Comparing
they
us to
saw
like the
like,
Blue Devils and then like
yeah, it's like the Blue Devils
it
and
would
like,
be like
oh,
this
today
doesn't
we're
seem
going on a
fair.
free day.
Yeah, but then that would expose DCI for not treating cores fairly. So,
Fair, fair.
Yeah. Let alone
but we
Cymbal
won't
and
talk about
DCI.
that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So, anyways, back to the central point. We also want to talk about your guys' technique at Spirit. I think that's the one thing we can all agree on. There's a very distinct distinction uh, in the East Coast tradition, I guess you'd say. So, not talking about West Coast, but in the East Coast, right? The most common prep you see is like engaging with like the middle and like the ring finger. I don't know how to explain it right now without like the symbols on, but like
It's like a
prepping in that.
clam opening, kind of.
Yeah.
Yeah. But the interesting about your guys' prep, and I find this so fascinating, is you guys prep more out. I don't want to speak on behalf of your guys like prep, but like what exactly went into like the mechanics behind it, or like how did that become to be your guys' prep?
It is really the combination of several decades and several lines technique all combined into one. So the basics of our crash. So there's two main types of contact. Well, yeah, so you have two main types of crash. You have the flam crash which is what most people do, where you take the front of that cymbal and you drive it through to get that flam. At Spirit, what we do is we go and we drive past, so we miss, and then we make contact with the inside of the cymbal, so it gets more of a fuller, rounder sound. So it makes it's a larger point of contact, is the way I would describe it, which
Interesting.
is what which has really allowed us to project very, very loudly. But so what our technique was is you think about it just like the normal pullback, it has that hinging motion, right? But what happens is they don't ever come apart farther than like if there was your two finger rule in between there, which was kind of based off of our technique when I was at Pio, which was this technique we just hinge crashed like this. We always use the analogy, it's like opening a book. You know, the book opens. So if you're facing it dead on, my right hand mostly pivots out, but it does have a slight bend. But these are the very like super details. Whenever I'm explaining it to them, and there's always a slight bend, but mostly it is from hinging, and the left one does more bend, but they do
Okay.
stay connected. Um, I would say maybe the elbow does come back a little bit for that natural because we don't base the movement off of the front of the cymbals. It's more based off the center of the cymbals. At least that's how I explained it when I was there. I don't know what their point of access was the season after, but when I did, I was more focused around the bell and the palm of the cymbals.
Okay. So is there like any flam between the back and, or I guess like the middle area where it first hits and then the back, or is it kind of just like
The
one big?
contact happens palm the fingers. So if I'm here, that's the contact. So it's really the
Interesting.
the big surface area of it. So basically, you're just skipping the first half.
I find this so interesting now because I tell everyone, like the students me and Lucas teach, we always harp that no matter where you go, you're always going to have some sort of different approach. Like I'm sure if you were to explain how you guys flip up, it's going to be completely different the way we flip up. But the one thing we can always agree on is there's always that commonality to the approach,
Mm-hmm.
which I find it so fascinating. Like for example, like when we were taught any sort of crash, specifically in the prep, we were always taught like don't use any shoulder, don't pull back or anything. But
Oh
then
yeah, I'm always keep your shoulders in
yeah,
place.
but then on the West Coast, you see people pull all the way back. So I just find it really fascinating how, I mean, flips are pretty common, like in the approach, but I would say the prep across anywhere you go, it's always going to be something different. Even like my experience at from GMU to Scouts, like the difference in prep was literally from like this to like this. Like it was
It
so
was so slight.
tiny.
Yeah.
It
Yeah.
used to be every line had their own completely distinct thing because we were all making it up before. But I think in the last, I wouldn't want to say 10 years, but probably like last 6 years, we started seeing things really culminate together.
Yeah, as techs are kind of like jumping from line to line, it's kind of like spreading their knowledge around.
Yeah, we're getting more knowledgeable techs. Like a lot of kids that learn that how to do this stuff. We're all going teaching places now and passing along,
Hmm.
which is really good. I think it's what we needed.
And there will always be that difference, but the nice thing, like you're saying, we now have that commonality. We have the knowledge. We know how to not hurt ourselves. We know how to get good sound. You're gonna find different approaches, but regardless, especially with the people who have the experience, the commonality, no matter where you go, it's always gonna be the best approach.
Yeah, I think it's been really hard for us to work towards, working towards that standard like drumming has, with the rudiments, because we
Yeah,
still all call it different stuff. Like
yeah.
tap chokes, I like calling them whams. Everyone makes
Whams.
fun of me for
Whams.
because
Jesus.
it's a wham.
Whammy.
Yeah. Oh, here's a good one. Do you call vertical and horizontal high port and low port?
Um, so that was something that I really worried about for not too long. Um, because when I was at Pi, we just had our one position is either this, or if we were lucky, we might get to lower it for
Mm,
parades.
yeah.
Um, but I just called it vertical. This I just knew as horizontal port gumption. I just knew the standards.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, there's other ones like egg beaters, crepes.
Yeah,
I don't,
I like
I'm just
calling them
making up.
crepes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm just making up names now. Like we can just call them waffles and French toast if you want. I mean,
I like port for this though, because it's dead center port. It's your home, and it's
yeah.
Yeah,
short.
horizontal doesn't really make total sense. So I
Yeah.
know
It's
at
not. Yeah,
Mason
it's
we
not
called it
horizontal.
gumption
Oh,
because
yeah. We
horizontal is
called it.
flat.
Yeah. Um, but being able to find the commonalities in those definitions, it's the same thing. Everyone has their own approach. Everyone's been taught differently, but as you see through the years, it gets more and more similar in the approach. And I mean, it'll never be exactly the same. Like if we're talking about like sticks, like drumming. I'm not a drummer, but like on the East Coast and the West Coast, I do know there's like a different approach in the way they hold their sticks or maybe the way they present themselves. So you're always going to find that difference no matter where you go. Cool. Awesome. So now the last thing, this will be our last topic, but this is something that Lucas, if you want to explain it.
Yeah, so well, first of all, when I was starting out in high school, I watched a lot of Nathan's videos. Like, if you guys don't know, he has a YouTube channel, Nathan Wollerman, and he posts a lot of videos. When would you say you posted them?
I was in high school, probably like my junior, senior year. So that was when I just started marching indoor.
Oh wow, I definitely thought you were older than that. But yeah, I actually watched those videos, so I knew Nate from before, just from like the computer screen seeing him on YouTube. But yeah, so when you made these videos, I guess what brought you to do it?
So kind of at that time, we were just everything that wasn't most a lot of off the hand stuff was still kind of new. Like the bucket dip, the first time we really saw that was an MCM video when they're standing on a sandbar. And me and my buddies, we learned how to do that by watching the video, slowing it down and pausing it. And it was cool because they were in a ripple, so you could pause it and you could see frame by frame the steps of doing it. So that's how we figured out how to do bucket dips. And as the years go by, like a lot of it started developing really fast. Bucket dips turned into inverted bucket dips, and then
Oh yeah.
all the crazy hoo-has.
Yeah, that inverted bucket dip video I definitely watched a lot because when I saw that I thought it was the coolest thing in high school.
Yeah, I saw MCM do it. I'm like, what did they just do? I'm like, oh, they just.
I still
Then there's
remember
another bucket they did. I call it a quarter bucket because it's really just kind of like a dip and then out.
oh
It's
yeah.
so smooth. Yeah,
But I
I
definitely
love those
remember
old MCM ones.
um in the inverted bucket video, I still can like hear your voice saying, "Okay, imagine there's a marker on your pinky and draw an infinity sign." And then I went and I said that exact like thing to every single person on my line in high school. I was like, "Okay, no, no, you gotta imagine the marker on your pinky." But like all those videos were super helpful back then, and there weren't a lot of others. So
Yeah,
you're
that's one of the
kind
reasons I
of
did it because the information wasn't out there. Um, and like there's a lot of like techs out there who still they marched back in the 90s or like maybe they like just had very little experience at all. So there's a lot of people not knowing this stuff, and there wasn't a very willingness to share it at that time, the knowledge. Um, so like I got some backlash for doing those videos in the Cymbal community.
wait, really?
Yeah, not gonna say who or what lines, but just some of the people in that time. It was just I was sharing our secrets. I'm like, it's for everyone. Like, don't we want the community to get better? Like,
I didn't know it was like that back then.
That's crazy. Jesus.
I mean,
Yeah. But yeah, so did you ever expect the videos to get that many views? Did you ever see them getting that popular?
no, because I remember when they first happened, they would stick to only maybe like 100, 200 views, and then like a year or two later, I went back and one's got like 15K. I'm like, oh,
That's crazy. Now,
didn't
if
know
we can
that many
get
Cymbal
our,
players.
yeah, I mean, now if we can get our podcast episodes to that, that'd be great too.
Yeah, where all the Nathan Wallerman fans at?
Yeah.
I mean, it seems like almost everyone at this point has probably had their eyes on those at one point or another.
Probably. If they wanted to learn a bucket, I mean, that's definitely where I learned it. Buckets, pancakes or crepes, the inverted bucket. Like these videos were like the definitive way for me to learn it in high school. And I'm probably the same for a lot of people.
And my goal is to keep it as basic as possible, try to keep my individual techniques out of it. That's why, like, I think in my bucket dip one, I talked about 3 different levels of it. So it's like whatever your line wants, you'll be able to do it.
Well, now that you've had more experience, would you go back and change any of your videos?
I would. I don't think I'm gonna though.
Yeah.
Just because if I want to do them, I would want to do it really well. And it takes a lot of time, and I don't have the time right now. Um, but like I would definitely do like the video quality was totally horrible. Back then I just had like a little tiny camcorder. So I would do it in one sitting. So if I messed up, I had to restart because I didn't have video editing until later on. And you can see that in one of them, it has like the big watermark on it because I was testing out. But I would do it better. Um, I'd probably try to keep it as basic, still explain it the same way, but probably go more in depth.
Nice. Yeah, I mean, as we've said on this podcast before, it's great to just spread the knowledge. Like that's what we're all about.
But yeah, that's why I was really excited to be on here with you guys. I'm like, all right, get to share some of the stuff before I forget it all.
Also, I apologize for the dogs barking.
Yeah,
Like,
that was pretty funny.
I barely even noticed it.
They're trying to get on this podcast too.
Cool.
Oh, there.
That is definitely going to get edited out.
Who said I'm editing this out?
Oh, dude, yeah, you want to get the dogs in here? Dogs screaming. This is every day for me. It's freaking
Yeah.
dogs.
I mean, we can edit this out if you want.
All good. If the fans want it, it's fine. But I guess as I'm looking at my timer now, after all the dogs barking, uh, this is all the time we have for today. So thank you, Nate, for joining us. It's
Oh,
been
thanks
great
for having me
having
on.
you. It's been great kind of getting to talk to you after only really seeing you on YouTube as a high schooler. So it's been really great getting to talk to you and having you here. But Jan, if you'd like to do the honors of asking the final question.
Yeah, so we asked this to everyone. I mean, you guys watching, you guys know the drill, but Nate, if there's one thing you could say to any some player out there right now, what would it be? That one thing.
Don't
It's
be
tough.
late.
Ooh, that's a good one.
Yeah.
That's all I got to do. Just don't be late.
Actually, I think it'd be important to define that a little bit. What do you mean by don't be late?
Don't be late.
Oh, okay.
No matter what, just don't be late.
Okay.
In all things, don't be
Yeah.
late. Don't be late to block. Don't be late on your prep. On the crash. It's a good one.
Yeah. Move together. You play together. That's my quote, honestly. If I were a guest on here, my quote would be: if you move together, you play together.
Don't be late. You'll be yelling that all the time on tour. Just don't be late. Don't be last. Don't whatever it is. Just get on the bus. Let's go.
Hell
Yeah.
yeah.
Cool. Once again, thank you, Nate. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in to another episode of the Flip Up Podcast. Of course, as Lucas said earlier, be sure to let us know who you guys want to see next on the podcast. And as always, take care, guys.
See ya.